Hello and welcome to the Addicts Anonymous podcast. I'm your host, Jim Rochelle. Today is episode 266, and we're going to be interviewing Matthew. How you doing today, Matthew?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It looks like you're outside enjoying nature.
Yeah, in my backyard.
So where are you from?
Right outside Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Okay. You've been there all your life?
No, I grew up here. Lived down in South Florida for a while, but relocated back up here. Been up here for about 9 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into your story a little bit. Tell me about your childhood and growing up. Start from the beginning.
So childhood, wow. It was really good actually. Growing up, I was an only child. Growing up in Novi, Michigan, parents, good jobs, kind of didn't really want for anything. If I wanted something and they said no, I went to grandma, grandpa and got it. So it wasn't, it was really a good childhood. No, really, I would say traumas or anything crazy. Grew up in just normal childhood. Graduated high school, nothing pretty crazy. It was normal, very well childhood.
Okay. How'd you do in school? You did well?
Yeah, I did well. I was an athlete, so I think once I got to high school and realized that I didn't really back then I didn't have to so to say show up as much. I could still get good grades, and as long as I performed on the field, things were kind of overlooked. So it, uh, it, it I got good grades. I kind of paid for it when I went to college, so things were a little different because I actually had to study and go to class. So things were a little different.
How was your social life growing up?
Social life was awesome, man. I was that kid. I had friends that, stereotype the burnouts, the jocks. I kind of floated in between them all. If there was ever a party or anything, I would bounce around between the two, and I was kind of the peacemaker between everybody. Um, Hanging out. It was just with everybody. I didn't have an enemy. I fit in everywhere. Back then we had mullets and hung out with our anarchy jean jackets, and then flip of a switch, I would have a Letterman's coat on and hanging out with the jocks. So it was a little bit different. I just blended in everywhere.
That's good. It's good to be a
Yeah.
social creature like that.
Oh yeah,
It goes a long way in life too.
without a doubt.
So, what was your first exposure to any types of drugs or alcohol?
Well, I mean, I grew up around it. You know, my grandparents lived down the road, and my parents on the weekends would always, have euchre parties or
What parties?
euchre card
What's you?
game.
Oh, card game.
Card
Okay.
game. Yeah, I think it's only in the north. Um, Kind of like spades in a way. Um, so I always grew up around alcohol. You know, I it was I made people drinks. So I just grew up around it. It was always there. Um, Family members getting hammered or uh, always on the weekends. Friends of aunts and uncles coming around, and weekends were always a big party. So growing up at a very young age, I was always around it. It was just normal. It was there. Um, so just seeing that exposure, to me, it was just that's what you did. You worked hard all week, and then you let loose on the weekends. Yeah.
Who was it? Was your parents were drinking too on the
Oh
weekends?
yeah. Yeah. Everybody in my family drank on the weekends. Everybody, my parents, my parents, yeah, very rarely would I see them, have a cocktail during the week. And if they did, it was maybe one, but I would, on the weekends, it was on.
They were getting drunk.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've seen everybody drunk. I've seen my father drunk. I've seen my mother drunk. I've seen, um, everybody in my family drink. I learned how to play poker at a very young age because family members would want to keep their money in the pot. So I would, being the only sober one at 11, 12 years old, I would carry carry their pot of money, playing their cards, because they would go pass out or whatever. So I was exposed to it very young, very young.
Did you have any feelings about it at the time?
That it was just normal. That's just what you do. That's, I guess looking back at it, I didn't really, I think I couldn't wait till I became the age where I was allowed to do that because it seemed fun and cool. And, everybody hung out in the kitchen and everybody just had a good time. Very rarely was there a fight or, I can count on one hand how many times shit got crazy, so to say, or there was never a DUI, or at least it was never exposed to me. There was never no real bad consequences from it. It was just people having fun on the weekend, you know. So I think looking back, I think I just couldn't wait till I was of age to be able to partake in the festivities.
When was the first time you ever tried anything?
I think it was summer of 8th grade. Yeah, summer of 8th grade. We went on a case of beer, a bunch of us, and one of my friends worked at a party store and got a case of beer, stole it or something. I don't remember. And we stashed it in the woods. And then we went back to drink it that night. I remember it was piss warm.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Piss warm. And I think, and I didn't like it. It was piss warm beer, but it was the fact that I was doing it that it made it cool, being, 13, 14 years old. That it was just like, shit, we're cool. We're drinking beer. We're about to be freshmen,
How did you feel the first time you drank anything?
Relief, like, manhood, like I've come, I've had, I used to make my grandparents their drinks. They used to buy half gallons of some kind of whiskey, and it was a glass that was full of ice, and you'd fill it up to the top, about that one finger full below the top of whiskey, and then you'd go up to the faucet and just go like with water. God knows what that did, but that was their drink my whole life growing up. So like, I would like taste, and I'd swirl it or something, and I'd taste it. But I think that first experience drinking those, I think I had like 2 or 3 Bush Lights, whatever it was. It was a feeling of like almost like I become a man type thing, like this is it, this is what you do. So I wouldn't say I didn't get that, like, euphoria of, oh my God, this is the greatest thing. It was more of a circumstance thing, like, we're the cool kids now. We're drinking, because it tasted like shit.
Did you get drunk?
No, I don't think I did. I think I had a buzz. I think it was just more, and more people showed up, and the beer was gone within like 45 minutes. And then we had no way of getting any more. So it was more of just a buzz feeling. And then the next weekend it was on, and it didn't stop after that. Yeah.
So you said before when you took your first drink, one of the things you felt was relief. What relief from what?
I think of the relief of just being able to enjoy it, being able to be be accepted into the drinking world, so to say. Like, even though I was hiding it from my parents or whatnot, it was like I was a part of the club. I'm a man now. Like, I've had a beer, and it was just relief that it got out of the way. And I think a few of us at that time were talking about it for the longest time, and something always happened. We couldn't get it, or you know yeah, like we couldn't get it, or say, just weekends and weekends would show up and there would be no booze. So when it finally happened, it was like a relief of, all right, we did it. Unfortunately, that time, once it happened, it was on for the next 4 years of high school. It didn't stop.
But the drinking?
Yeah, drinking, drugging, didn't stop.
So it started in high school, your heavy use?
Yeah, I was really big into drinking and drugging in high school.
What kind of drugs?
Uh, Acid was really big when I was in high school. Marijuana and beer; those were the big three. You heard about like the harder drugs of cocaine and whatnot, but I don't think it like filtered out to my area as much yet. So, all through high school, every weekend, it was on. It was um just parties every weekend. If it was bonfires in the woods, just somebody's house, didn't matter. It didn't matter where we were. We made a party of it, and there was always booze, there was always liquor, always beer, always marijuana, and that was it. And it filtered even like into school weeks. Like during school. I mean, I remember times where get hammered on a Tuesday, go to school on Wednesday. Just whatever came up.
So it's progressing.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, and then you start getting labeled, the partier, or the kid who can drink more than anybody, or I think at one point we started a beer bong team. So I don't know why, but back then we used to beer bong a lot. Who could make the biggest bong out of a funnel and a tube, and I don't know why we did some of that shit, but it was just accepted. It was, I mean, back then, I mean, we'd get pulled over and the cop would dump out our shit and tell us to go home. It was just a different world back then.
Yeah. So what do you think you happened that you said to yourself you started maybe having a problem? When did you notice your usage go up?
Well, I knew my usage went up early, like in high school, but I I would say I didn't really know I had a problem until probably after college, or maybe, yeah, like probably like 22, 23. I really started to know I had a problem. But by then, you know, you start introducing other drugs and everything else. And then that's when it really started to get crazy.
How so?
Well, like missing work, or uh just, at one point I think it was, I forget what year it was, late 90s. I mean, I moved to South Florida, and it's very fast down there when you're a 20, 23, 22-year-old kid. And drugs are way cleaner, nicer compared to way up north. And uh it just got out of control really quick. I mean, drinking was every day, 7 days a week. Doing drugs was 7 days a week, every day.
What kind of drugs?
Mostly cocaine. It was way cheaper down there than it was up north, and it was just seemed like it was cleaner, and um, you could do a little bit, last you a long time. Where up north, you would do a lot, wouldn't last at all. So I kind of made that move, like, all right, shit's hitting the fan up north. Let's move to South Florida. Things will be better. That transitional move, and it was just doesn't just go away. It follows you wherever you go. So uh it just didn't stop down there. It's you know bars that open at 2 a.m. and it just, the
They open at
accessibility,
2.
just, yeah.
Wow. 20.
Yeah,
What time do they stay open till?
I think it's like 8 or 9 in the morning, maybe even 10 in the morning. So basically they have bars that they're called the after hours bars, and it's like $20 to get in, all you can drink, but you're already so fucked up because it's 2 o'clock in the morning. There's usually like a county sheriff at the front door, but it's just loaded with drugs and alcohol and craziness. And you know, working, I've worked in restaurants most of my life, and it's a cesspool of just crazy. It's chaotic, orchestrated chaos, craziness. So it's you're just at that point I was just up nonstop and just trying to work, and it was just crazy. Just the progression of the disease that progressed into other drugs, but alcohol was always there. That was always my first love. That was always my go-to. That was always, I remember showing up to parties where, guys got some really good weed or whatever, and it wasn't my thing because I was that weird dude that when I mixed the two, I would become sick. I would puke or whatever. So I would always just, bring my beer and, pint of schnapps or something to keep in my coat. Because alcohol was always my bride. It was that was my drug of choice. Always.
So what would you say came your lowest point in drinking? And like, what was your, I guess, spiraling out where you decided you needed to start changing things?
First time, I think it was 2000 or 2001, 2000. I transferred back up to Michigan for the company I was working for, the restaurant company. And one of the waitresses, we knew that, it was known she didn't drink. She went to this thing called AA. And I knew shit was getting crazy. I just had my son. And after work, I would go to the bar. I'd lie, say I was still at work. And I would go by myself and just sit there. Or I would, sit in my car and just pound 6 beers or whatever. And I went up to her. I remember her name is Deidre. And I went up to her and I go, "Hey, you go to those meetings, right, where they talk about drinking?" And she was like, "Yeah, AA." And I was like, I got this friend and we're kind of worried about his drinking. Do you know when and where they are? And she looked at me and she goes, "I'll pick you up tomorrow at 7." And I was like, no, this is for one of my friends. And she looked me straight in the eye and she goes, "I'll pick you up tomorrow at 7." And I was just like, okay. Mm-hmm. And looking back on that, it's like everybody knew, you think you hide it, you think, when you're doing a line in the cooler and no one knows, or, you're drinking the box wine in the back hall of the kitchen because, you need a little, get that little edge off, and you're in the middle of dinner service at 7:30 and there's that fucking box wine on the back line that you cook with, and you're like, it's got alcohol in it, let's try it. So as much as I thought that, I was hiding everything and nobody knew anything, this this one waitress at work was just like, "I'll pick you up at 7." So I went to my first AA meeting in 2000. It was crazy. It was nuts. It was a whole different world. Back then, they would smoke at tables. It was the biggest meeting in Ann Arbor at the time. It was huge. I mean, it was like, let's say 300 people at this meeting, maybe even more, 500. I don't know. And I remember I sat at a table and this guy said, and it came to me, and I said, "My name's Matthew and I don't know what I am." And this old timer looked at me and goes, "Well, if you're at this table, you're a fucking alcoholic." And I was like, "Fuck you, man. Who the fuck are you to tell me what I am?" And then I stuck around for the meeting, and I remember this guy saying something about that the ashtrays at the table were his higher power. And one of the old timers stood up and grabbed this plastic ashtray in the middle of the table and he threw it on the ground and it shattered. And he goes, "How's your fucking higher power now?" That was the last meeting I went to for like years. Because I was like, these fucking guys are crazy, man. These guys are nuts. Like, this is cray. So, so I just stayed in the disease, and it was like, didn't want to go back.
What? So after that, you didn't stay sober?
No. No. I mean, I'm trying to think when I finally got sober. So I think I went to rehab in 2001. I set it up to where I took my vacation and I checked into rehab, and then the day I got out of rehab, I went back to work. That didn't work out too well because they were like, you know, you need to stay longer. And I'm like, I can't. I got to go back to work. And I actually worked in a brewery. I was a chef of a brewery restaurant. And so I was in and out. I stayed sober for like 6 months and then went back out and, you know, got sober again, went back to rehab, bounced around from rehabs. You know, just I would get like a year and then I'd go back out. I would never finish what I started. You know, that deadly fourth step. I would get to that point and I'd get stagnant. Or I would get rid of my sponsor because he was fucking being a dick and making me do that fourth step. So, you know, the next 20 years was just in, out, life changes, life moves, changes, circumstances, year sober, 6 months sober, 2 months sober, a week sober, a day sober, just in and out, chaos, living in pure chaos for the next 20 some years.
So tell us about how you got sober.
It's a good one. So I was living in Milford and, you know, I ruined so many jobs, so many great jobs. High paying, traveling, doing whatever. And it got to a point where I think it was November 1st, somewhere right around there. November 1st. I was just driving around drinking all day, just driving around every day. No one knew. I wouldn't listen to anybody, my daughter, my girlfriend, just doing my own thing, what I wanted. And I came home and my shit was packed, but it was my house. I was like, how the fuck is my shit packed in my house? And my girlfriend and my daughter were like, you're out. You know, I pay the bills here. What do you mean I'm out? And so everything I owned, I like just they packed it for me in my Jeep. Or maybe they didn't. Maybe they put it in the garage and I packed it in my Jeep. And I went and got some like $40 hotel room. And it was just, I think, about a half gallon, and just drank nonstop and went through all the emotions. Poor me, all this shit. And one night I started calling rehabs, and the first one that called me back was like, yeah, we got a bed for you. I was like, all right, I'll be right there. And they're like, oh, no, you're not driving. We'll get you a plane ticket. So this whole time I'm thinking I'm going to like South Florida to this hoity-toity rehab. And I landed in Pennsylvania. And this was my 8th rehab, I think, 8th or 9th rehab in 20 years. And I had to stay. And I just shut the fuck up and I did everything they told me to do, because 20 years of doing my own thing. I just, I would do a little bit of what people say and then just do my own shit for like a little bit. And there was like 40 some of us in this men's relapse program. And I was going to lose everything. I was going to lose my kids. I was going to lose my girlfriend. I was going to lose everything at the time. You know, I thought I already lost my job. And I remember the counselor saying, you know, out of 40 of you guys, like, you'd be lucky if like 2 or 3 of you stay sober. What the fuck? So, I think I was there like 40 days, and they're like, we want you to go to a halfway house or sober living. And I did. If you ask anybody, I wasn't going. And I did. I was like one of the oldest guys there. Lived in the sober house with a bunch of 20-something kids. And I think I was the only alcoholic there. It was all meth and other stuff. It was like, shit, there's still alcoholics around? I was like, yeah. And I learned so much in this rehab. It was just a different, you know, being to so many rehabs. I've seen shitty rehabs. I've seen good rehabs. This one was good. Something just stuck. And I don't know what it is. Sometimes I sit and I think about, you know, what was it? I think I finally just said, I give up. I'm just going to do what everybody tells me to do. Waving the white flag, surrender, acceptance. You know, 20 years of my own doing. Look where it's got me. I got shit to show for it. I got a little money in my bank account, if any. Don't have a 401k. I've blown all that. And I just did what they told me. And, you know, I remember, I mean, it was brutal in there. I mean, like, family members had to write letters and shit. And it was brutal. It wasn't like any other rehab where it was like fun and games. I don't know if it was my age or what, but it finally just stuck. And, you know, I remember, you know, my daughter saying she wouldn't talk to me for a year. So I was sober a year. And I remember like talking to the counselors, and they're like, don't worry about it. You know, you show her you're sober, she'll come around. Don't worry about it. They're right. I think it took like 3 months of showing her sobriety after I got out. So like 5 months of sobriety, she started slowly talking to me. You know, there's just a lot of things that, you know, I've done, you know, in my past that are, you know, really unforgivable. You know, in my depths of drinking, I was a shitty fucking person. I've done some shitty things to people. But there is forgiveness. And to this day, I mean, I wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for forgiveness. You know, I mean, there's trust me, there's a ton of trials in between there, from DUIs to arrests to cops and, you know, mental institutions and all kinds of debauchery of the last 20 years. But this last time when I finally got sober. You know, people ask me all the time, they're like, you know, what was it that did it? And to me, it's like a switch. I just surrendered. I accepted who I am. I'm an alcoholic. I can't drink. There's this, you know, I think it's like Robert Downey Jr. Somebody has got this quote where he's like, I'm thinking about having a drink on Saturday, but then I remembered I have plans for Christmas. And I totally get that. And I say this to people to this day when, I'll be out with work or whatnot. They're like, oh, you don't drink. I'm like, no, don't drink. And they're like, why not? I'm like, I got plans for Christmas, because could I go out and have a beer right now? Sure, probably could. By Saturday, you won't see me. I'll either have lost my job, gotten a DUI, I will have stolen from somebody, something. So sobriety has given me just like life, and it's not all fucking unicorns and rainbows. Don't get me wrong. It's there's hard times, there's shitty times in sobriety, but you get to deal with them with the level head. And that's kind of what that last rehab taught me, was just how to deal with things in going on in life. And of 20 years of in and out of the program, I'll say this, all these cliches like in AA, one day at a time, and this too shall pass. 20 years, I thought they were like the biggest fucking cliche jokes. And then once you get sober, those mean something now. Like, I'm like, wow, like one day at a time. No shit, it is one day at a time. Like, it's like 1 second at a time. It's like 1 minute at a time. So it's like, maybe I'm just a slow learner and it took fucking 20 years to string along, some consistent sobriety. But, that last relapse before getting sober, I mean, that was at the point to where it was drinking at 7 a.m. It was drinking when I wake up, having a drink in the shower, make an excuse why I gotta run somewhere for work so I could get a drink during work a few times a day, drinking at work, drinking till it's gone or I pass out, and then wash, rinse, repeat. So, that gift of sobriety, I don't take for granted, because it can easily change tomorrow, without a doubt. But then again, I hear people all the time and they're like, well, I'm doing this for my daughter and I'm doing this, to an extent, old timers will tell you, you got to do it for yourself. And absolutely you do. I believe that 100%. But you can have to me, you can have other things. Did I get sobriety? Did I get sobriety for myself? Sure, 100%. But I wanted a better way of life for the people around me, because I wasn't doing them any favors. I was causing chaos and craziness. So at the end of the day, it's about making your life better. My life today is unbelievable compared to what it was. Is it phenomenal? Like, great? Every day's awesome? No, fuck no. Shit happens. I got a 23-year-old and a 20-year-old that, think dad's a fucking ATM machine. So it's not like everything's perfect, but it's a hell of a lot better than what it was, almost 3 years ago. For me, I'll say that this is one thing that I always tell people: the struggle to piece together a few dollars and the struggle in my brain of when and how I'm going to get my next drink was so bad that my worst day in sobriety beats that tenfold. Just that chaos of waking up in the morning going, okay, I got a meeting at 10. I got 2 interviews I got to do for Wisconsin at, noon. That mental strain of when I can fit my next fix was just pure insanity. And I don't have that anymore. And, that's why I always tell, like, my brain doesn't stop. It's always going, because it was so wired for so long of trying to get my next fix and how I'm going to do things, that now it's like I got so much fucking time on my hands. It doesn't know what to do. And I'm not struggling to figure shit out.
It looks like you're in a good place right now.
Yeah, I really am. I'm really in a good place. Things are good. But do I have struggles every day? Absolutely, 100%. I just don't have the, where am I going to get my next boot? Where am I going to get my next fix? Where am I going to get, and I'm at the point now, like, almost 3 years now, I can go to functions and I can go to family things. Looking back, like we talked earlier, I just went to a family wedding, and the number one drink at the family wedding was Heineken Zero, because my buddy, like, I was the first person in my family to go to rehab. And now I think there's like 5 of them that have gone to rehab. There's like 3 of them that are sober to this day. And one of my aunt's daughters got married, and literally the number one drink at the wedding was a non-alcoholic drink, because my family, who used to be partiers now, I don't know if I set the tone or what, but don't get me wrong, there's still people in my family that still drink, but it's just weird how life happens that way.
Well, I'm glad you're doing so well. So
Yeah.
getting towards the end here, seems like you've had quite the journey of addiction and recovery.
Yeah, it's put me through the washer, man. It's but looking back, I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, it's been fun, it's been shitty, it's been I mean, I could probably go on for hours and hours of all the chaos that I've caused to myself and so many other people, of different events in life. And it's I'm just glad now that I can, talk to people and talk to, one of the big things for me when I, first got sober, was talking to people that have been through it, have gone through it, and what are they doing? And that's when I say I shut up and I listened, because it was those people that steered me in the right direction of sobriety, and how to, and what to do. So, I don't have all the answers, but it's always nice to talk to people that are, going through some struggles, and maybe something I say can help them in some way. Take one little thing. I mean, I can sit here and tell you, there's people that I remember from like rehab number 4 that stuck out to me. It is what it is, but I'm just glad now that, I can reach out to people and help them in some way.
Good. That's good. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast today. How do you feel?
Feel good. Feel good.
Yeah.
Probably go on for hours, man.
I know we've all got a story to tell us. A lot of us have done some crazy shit in our times. But
Yeah.
I think no, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, but I mean, those are things too. We don't want to glorify and, get knee deep in the details of all the crazy shit we've done. We want to really look at and talk to people about what we've done to get sober.
Yep. All right, my friend, sit tight for a minute. I think it's a good place to wrap up. So for everybody watching and listening, if you like what you saw and heard, go below and give us a like. Also subscribe to see when we upload new videos. You can also check us out on all social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, we're on it. Also check out our website, which is www.addicts-anonymous.com. There's plenty of free resources as well as free literature available. And also Addicts Anonymous has a book out. It's called Addicts Anonymous Our Stories. I write on a collection of different topics. And there's also a collection of people's personal stories fighting addiction and their recovery. So you can check that out on Amazon and Kindle. Once again, it's called Addicts Anonymous Our Stories. So that's all we have for today. I really hope you enjoyed watching, and hopefully we can catch you next time.